Well, speaking about being a slow technological adapter, how much time do you spend shouting at people in movie theaters for using their cell phones?
Yeah, okay. No, a lot of times I'm an old man now, and I spend a lot of time screaming at the youth in movie theaters. The thing is, like, I think that we're walking into movie theaters with every kind of light on our body possible. People used to navigate into movie theaters without having to have a flashlight on. You could see fine, but now you can't walk in and you have to put on your brightest flashlight, and then you have to sit there with your smartwatch beeping to tell you that you've got a WhatsApp in your pocket, and then that shines out the whole movie theater, and then you got to answer your call, or you can't watch the movie because you've got to watch your TikTok. I gotta say, like, it doesn't impress me.
Well, the reason I bring it up is, and I completely agree, man. It's such a. I'm waiting for the day when. I mean, I would think movie theaters have some rules about this. You would think there'd be
No.
some kind of system in place to
There
rein
is.
people
It's the
in.
social contract. We do have a social contract, and everybody knows about it. They just choose to break it. Like, the social contract is, if you go to a movie theater, you have to be civil because we're all here to enjoy the experience. But and part of that civility is not shining random phone lights around all the time. Look, I'm not saying you can't check your phone quickly or have a look at something, like, that's fine. But there's people that literally buy tickets to go and check their phone in a movie theater. What is going on? Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, if I'm in the movie theater, I'm very anxious to even take out my phone. I feel there's a guy like you sitting a few rows behind me who
I
might
could be
just,
there,
yeah, yeah.
like a movie theater Batman, but like just for throwing your phone away. I'll swoop down.
So the reason I bring it up, right, is because I wanted to. We're kind of I want to explore art with you, but I want to approach this, kind of sneak up on it and talk a little bit about attention, because
Mm.
this lack of attention and the inability to focus on a movie, for example, seems to me like a symptom of a larger problem in our culture at the moment, in our society, right? And it seems to be I mean, it's just a consequence of cell phones. A few years ago, I don't know if you can recall, there was a viral video on YouTube. It was a sort of a poem where this guy talks about cell phone usage and how it's destroying us. And
Mm.
I
Mm.
might have to put
I
a
don't
link to that
recall it.
in the description. It's old, but when it came out, and I'll send it to you after we speak. When it came out, everybody was, "Wow, this is so amazing! We really need to look at our usage." And that video, just, things have completely done the opposite, right? It's a great video because in the video, you see this guy who puts his phone down and he meets a woman, and then it shows you his whole life with her. Like, it shows you how they meet, it shows you them going for coffee, him and proposing, kind of traditional approach, get married, have children. He's old, and then the poem kind of switches it and says, but none of this would have happened. And then it goes back to him on that street corner, and he's on his phone like this, and she just walks past, and it kind of makes you realize how much of life we miss because we're just down on our phones. And so, uh, just to round this off, I think these days time management is not necessarily the biggest worry for us. It's more attention management.
Mm.
Do you have any thoughts on that, on focus and on attention? Why is it necessary for us to learn how to focus?
And is this pertaining specifically to art? I suppose. I mean, if we well, the
Well,
point.
broadly speaking.
Hmm. Look, I think, firstly, I'm not saying that, like, cell phone bad, that, like, that meme
Yes.
about that thing. And I think that, like, even if you are not looking at your phone, you could be distracted by something else. You could be thinking about the video game that you're going to play, or you could be looking at sneakers in the shop window or something. Like, so that guy
Hmm.
could have missed that love of his life based on any kind of attention grabbing thing. I don't think people being distracted is something new. I think
True.
what is more important around being distracted is that we continually engineer the circumstances to be distracted. So distraction is natural, but I think cell phone usage and connectivity makes us engineer these circumstances so that we're always in a state of distraction that takes us away from our internal dialogue, from our thoughts, and from boredom. I mean, again, there's so many more people that are so much more knowledgeable on this than I am. Old Cal Newport is a big guy that's big into attention, and Sam Harris also talks about attention a lot, and he's interviewed people about attention a lot. So I'm sure that there's people that have much more nuanced and interesting opinions about it. But I think that is the main thing why focus is so important. It's firstly the ability to sit with your internal dialogue and to actually feel what it feels like to be alone and to actually be a little bit bored sometimes. Like there's a lot of sources that talk about and obviously right here I can't remember those sources, but there's a lot of people that talk about the fact that boredom is important, that being bored is the catalyst for sometimes creative thinking to happen and for creative connections to happen. So I think on that level focus is important, but I also think focus is important in order to put it onto other things that isn't your phone. I
Mm.
think so much of what I'm seeing, especially because I'm teaching young creatives as well a lot, and one thing that a lot of the lecturers teaching have commented on is the homogeny of, I think that's the word, like of all of the different of the art that people are making. Everything kind of feels samey. I mean, like just take Netflix as an example. Like the gray sludge of Netflix. Like every movie is every series is every other movie is every other series, right? Like they all kind of have a similar look. They all have a similar feel. They got a similar soundtrack. There's nothing that stands out as super creative. All not always. There's great stuff there as well, but like there it's a homogenous bunch, and I think it's partly because, and this is again people talking about filmmaking notices that people aren't making films based on life experiences anymore. They're making films based on other films that they've seen, and I think that
Mm.
is the unintended consequence of not focusing, is firstly losing out on your internal monologue and your internal thoughts, and making connections within your own mind and body, but also losing real life experiences that's outside of your phone, outside of your rectangle,
Yeah.
and I think that is a big issue in art making and in creation in general now. But again, sweeping generalities, but I think it's at least interesting generalities.